Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to part 2 of this blockbuster feature of how to write a family court statement of hate with absolutely no evidence needed whatsoever. In the next 30 amazing minutes or so, I will be adding another 4 spurious allegations of hate to the 4 that we have already covered in part 1. This will make a total of 8 spurious allegations of hate. And why is that number important? Well, because it appears that 8 allegations is emerging as the commonly accepted number of allegations that the courts are permitting that will satisfy coercive control and the family court witch hunt for that all-important pattern of behaviour. So, let's bring back the stars of the show, our totally fictional training characters with our totally fictional statement, scenario and script. Firstly, welcome back, Mr. Matthew Groves. On separation, Mr. Groves was denied contact to his 4-year-old daughter, Sandy, and applied for a child arrangements order seeking 50-50 shared care. And this is his wife, Mrs. Abigail Groves, who on receiving the application for her to give up 50% possession of her beloved daughter, her golden child, her precious little gem, went ballistic with outrage. She freaked out with an outpouring of bitter, resentful indignation and hate. And let's not beat about the bush. Abigail is fully aware that if 50-50 share care is ordered, she potentially loses all claims to child maintenance. Mrs. Groves goes running off to her sick-in-the-head lawyer. You know the ones, those who all too often stir the pot of acrimony for financial gain, pit parents against each other in war, who engage in tens of thousands of pounds of unnecessary work, and who have absolutely no duty of care to any child. How disgraceful is that? Now, Abigail's lawyer is amazing and knows exactly what they need to do to manipulate the broken, inept, incompetent and incomprehensible family court system, and how to throw poor Matthew under the family court bus. What is even more incredible is that they can do it without relying on any evidence whatsoever. That's simply brilliant. Watch and learn. But it doesn't end there. Abigail has recruited one other amazing secret weapon into her armoury and her campaign of hate. Let's introduce a brand new character. Beatrice, Abigail's mother, of course. Beatrice has jumped straight onto the bandwagon, and in her generally bored, uneventful and sad life is suddenly loving the drama. She has come alive and wants a leading role. This beats bingo any day and places her as a person of importance and influence. Beatrice is ensuring that the level of mad emotional hysteria is kept at boiling point and is even willing to dip into her life savings to help fund this homemade soap opera that even Netflix would find hard to write. What a dream team. Everything is nicely in place. Let's move on. Abigail and I now invite you to download her amazing statement of hate without the need for any evidence and to read along with Phil. You can download it by clicking on the link in the description box or by going to philsvlogs.co.uk. Just look out for this thumbnail. So whilst you are doing that, let me run my excellent introduction. I am Philip Kedge, a retired police chief inspector, the director of the Mckenzie Friend UK network and founder of the national campaign of #LightNotHate to rescue you and all the little people from the hands of destructive lawyers who, and please repeat after me, have no professional duty of care to any child. We can get rid of them from the family court system. How can we do that? It's easy. Stop hiring them. 50% of family court service users are litigants in person, and within 3 years it is my purpose and mission to increase that to 80% by educating people that you don't need lawyers. In all my family court vlogs, my views and opinions are of course entirely my own. Please help me by liking, sharing, subscribing and hit that notification bell. Now, I must, however, explain for avoidance of any doubt that I am not telling you what to do in your case. This is just a fictional example of the hate that I read pretty much every day. And this vlog is for entertainment purposes only. Because let's face it, the family court is one big, utterly mad circus, and who doesn't love a circus? Let's take a look at Abigail's next 4 allegations of hate. That Mr. Groves referred to an ex-girlfriend in derogatory terms. That Mr. Groves laughed at a sexist joke and made a lewd comment. That he once shouted at Sandy. That Mr. Groves does not fit Sandy's car seat properly. Starting off then at paragraph 5. That he once referred to an ex-girlfriend in derogatory terms. I believe that Mr. Groves has a problem with women, particularly strong women. Before meeting me, he had a number of previous unsuccessful relationships. He once referred to his ex, Jennifer, as a manipulating bitch. They were together for 3 or 4 years, and I have no doubt that she survived similar abuse to myself. I wanted to reach out to some of his ex-girlfriends, but I could not locate them. So, let's examine all the marvellous references and assertions in this one. Abigail is brilliantly trying to create the idea of belonging to a survivors group of women linked to Matthew, of which she is now the latest and no doubt the most important member. Of course, it makes perfect sense to extend the notion of a pattern of abusive behaviour beyond just her relationship. That there must be a trail of abused women and that Matthew must be stopped. We need to label Mr. Groves as a domestic abuser right now so that we can warn all the unsuspecting, innocent, vulnerable women who Matthew may want to prey on next. Looking at the next allegation at paragraph number 6, that he laughed at a sexist joke and made a lewd comment humiliating me. Matthew would have male friends who would feed into his ego and misogynistic views. On one occasion, we went out for an Indian meal with his friend from work and his wife. During the meal, we had 3 to 4 bottles of wine, and Matthew's friend started to tell an offensive joke about how many women it took to change a light bulb or something similar. Matthew laughed out loud, and I could not believe that he would do that in front of me, putting me down as a woman during a night out. Look, let's get the record straight. I'm not condoning any such behaviour if true. Laughing at a sexist joke that made Abigail feel humiliated? What an outrage! The family courts and judges from Planet Stupid are going to love this. It's not only a 10 out of 10 slam dunk in terms of unacceptable behaviour, but we can now bring out the family court thought police. The thinking of Mr. Groves clearly needs to be readjusted. He needs to be sent away for treatment at a thought conversion camp. Let's return to the statement. At one point, myself and his colleague's wife went to the toilet together. We were away longer than anticipated because we were apologising to each other for our husband's behaviour. She wanted to be friends, but doubted that her husband would allow it. I said that Matthew would probably not allow it either. When we got back to the table, Mr. Groves was tapping on his watch, saying, "You were gone a long time." This was typical of him monitoring me, almost to the second. He then said, "Did you have fun? Can we watch?" At first I could not understand what he was saying. His friend started to laugh and I realised that he was implying something that was totally offensive and degrading. It ruined the rest of the evening. I sat there almost in tears. He did not understand the hurt and opened up another bottle of wine when all I wanted to do was to go home. I was trapped, unable to say anything. I did not want to make a scene as it was his work colleague, and I also wanted to protect the wife of his colleague. If I made a fuss, then she may also get into trouble when she got home. I sensed that she was in a similar situation as myself, a victim of abuse and coercive control. "Oh, Matthew, what have you done? This is like placing a noose around your own neck." As for Abigail, this is brilliant stuff. She now has Matthew's dingly-dangly little kahunas firmly in her grip and is starting to twist them as hard as she can. This is now beyond simple thought conversion therapy. Mr. Groves is going to need a full frontal lobe lobotomy to re-emerge as a better man who will never make such comments again, and to even become a champion of women's rights, causes and victimhood entitlement. A panting man lapdog to the woke sisterhood, a shell of his former self, a prime marvellous example of a new family court corrected man clone. Back to the statement. When we got home, Mr. Groves asked if I had had a good time. I said that I was shocked about his comment. He told me to get over it. He was drunk, we all were, but that was no excuse. He did say sorry the next morning, but I knew that this was not real and he was just manipulating me. This is what he does. He controls not only with aggression but also by apologising to disarm you and to then try and make you feel guilty as if it was you being overly dramatic and ruining the evening. When you are under constant coercive control, you feel as if you can't win, and after a while, you lose the energy to fight back. Well done, Abigail. Let's keep twisting and crushing Matthew's man sacks. This is awesome. You see, even when Mr. Groves sees the error of his ways and offers an apology, that's actually manipulation. To disarm Abigail, to get her sympathy and forgiveness, and to gaslight her into thinking that she was the one overreacting and being too sensitive and dramatic. You see, in my day, I thought that was called kissing and making up. But instead, Abigail, in her masterclass of hate, is teaching us that saying sorry is instead not only an admission of abuse and coercive control, but is in itself abusive and coercively controlling behaviour. Blimey, that's hard to get your head around. I'm so glad I got my divorce done over 10 years ago. Things have certainly changed. by these modern and clearly progressive standards of thinking, I should have been publicly flogged. Paragraph 6.5. I am worried that Mr. Groves will express his attitudes about women to Sandy, and that he will also control and manipulate her to feeling totally inferior to men. He will teach her to be fearful, to not aim to reach her full potential, to be second best and to please a man. This is not what Sandy should be exposed to and needs to be kept safe from such views until his attitude towards women changes. And now, finally, of course, comes the complete castration. Naturally, until this sorry example of a Homo sapien male shows genuine remorse, regret, shame, guilt, and totally submits to the family court programme for his penance, he needs to be kept as far away from his daughter, the poor, vulnerable, innocent, adorable little 4-year-old Sandy, as possible. Let's move on to the next allegation. The next allegation at paragraph number 7 that Mr. Groves shouted at Sandy. On one occasion, Mr. Groves shouted at Sandy when she had dropped her food on the floor. Sandy started to cry. She was only 3, and Matthew's initial reaction was to shout at her in anger, rather than being understanding, compassionate, and nurturing. I feel that this is how he is going to parent if he was ever on his own with Sandy, and that she is too young to understand or to communicate her fears and issues. This is a genius play by Abigail. You see, Abigail's lawyer understands that in order to try and manipulate the family court and the judges from Planet Stupid to its full extent, that this statement must not be solely about Abigail. They now need to bring in the notion of direct harm to Sandy, and in this instance, they use the soundbite of emotional harm. At the same time, they very cleverly cause double trouble by connecting it all to assertions of Matthew's unsafe parenting. That's all it takes, folks. One instance of raising your voice to a child in an 8-year marriage, and that potentially raises the question of child abuse. Continuing with the statement at paragraph 7.2. Sandy needs to be of an age where she can understand what is happening to her and to be able to communicate her fears to me. Until then, she will be confused, travelling back and forth from my loving, warm home and Mr. Groves' house that is full of tension and control with the risk of abuse. He simply does not have the patience to understand Sandy and her needs. Contact, if any at this time, needs to be built up slowly at Sandy's pace. Oh, it just keeps getting better and better. This is simply superb. Abigail brings in the notion of the need for a very slow, painfully slow, tortuously slow progression of any contact, with the concept that any unsupervised contact between Matthew and Sandy must be totally out of the question. Beautiful Sandy simply can't be put at any risk. We can't afford to get this wrong. It would be another national scandal. And Abigail's lawyer already knows that they have a head start on this argument. You see, why would a district judge, taking decades to aspire to being called sir or madam, want to risk their £120,000 per year pay packet? As far as they are concerned, it's safety, 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 money in the bank all the way home. Let's go now to Abigail's last allegation at paragraph 8, that Mr. Groves does not fit Sandy's car seat properly. Matthew has never been in Sandy's life. He was always focused on work rather than the family. All he wanted was promotion to a senior management position in health and safety. Because he claims to be highly trained in health and safety, he intimidates and bullies me by saying that he always knows what's best for the family. However, he rarely practices what he preaches. Paragraph 8.2. I am horrified and scared by the way that you fit Sandy's car seat into the car. He is totally complacent and the seatbelt is always loose. I have to always adjust it, but in doing so, I'm treading on eggshells because he gets really irritated and irate when I do. Sometimes I have to make an excuse for checking the back seats of the car, that I left something there or that Sandy needs a toy, just so that I can make sure that the car seat is correctly positioned. Let's give Abigail her medal right now. She places herself at risk of abuse in order to ensure that Sandy is safe and protected. You can already picture the way she is going to be presented to the court. Abigail the victim, Abigail the heroine, Abigail the survivor. And if she can also manage a bit of a weeping at the right places when sat behind her lawyer, that's going to be great. On the other side, we have Matthew the monster, Matthew the madman, Matthew the mummy abuser. He simply doesn't stand a chance. And do you know what the most fun part of all this is? As Abigail and her sick-in-the-head lawyer are plotting and writing the statement of hate, Matthew is totally oblivious as to what's coming. Matthew is sitting somewhere on his own, actually believing that he will be getting to see Sandy soon, that the family court will see the injustice of his situation and will quickly reunite him in loving embraces with Sandy, who is desperately missing him. You have to marvel at Matthew's naivety. With this wonderful work of hate, Abigail's lawyer knows that Matthew isn't going to be seeing Sandy anytime soon. Probably not for months and months, if they play all their cards right. Well folks, that's part 2 done, and what fun this has been. But the show, the big performance, the extravaganza isn't quite over yet, because there is one more part to go of this masterclass called How to Write a Family Court Statement of Hate Without Any Evidence Needed Whatsoever. In part 3, Abigail will be showing us how to conclude her statement, and that's going to be dynamite. I can't believe that I am sharing all this with you for free. I must be mad. So let's bring back my entirely fictional training characters in this entirely fictional scenario to take a well-deserved round of applause. Firstly, of course, Mr. Matthew Groves. Poor guy. He simply doesn't understand that the family court bus is already revving its engine, waiting to run him over and take him out. By the time he realises what's just happened, it's going to be too late. He is a dead man walking. Next is Abigail's sick-in-the-head family lawyer, who we are stealing all these dirty little tricks from. These lawyers are certainly not going to be happy with Abigail sharing her statement with you. Next is Abigail's mother, who is funding the entire soap opera and just loving the drama. She wants to pull the strings, to throw fuel on the fire, to be the matriarchal power on the throne. Beatrice wants Abigail and Sandy firmly in her clan, as far away from Matthew and Sandy's paternal grandparents as possible. A real snake in the grass. No more boring bingo for her, this is real life theatre. Beatrice is also poised to take on a leading role because she is even willing to volunteer, yes, volunteer, if or when the time is right to supervise Matthew's contact with Sandy, because that's going to be reassuring for the judges from Planet Stupid. How humiliating for Matthew will that be, being supervised with your own daughter by your mother-in-law? You can also feed back lots of concerns, issues and problems. Don't you just love her? And finally, our main character taking the centre stage. The fabulous, hysterical, emotionally challenged, vindictive, spiteful, vengeful and hateful Abigail Groves. What an amazing example she is to all you resident parents seeking to minimise, reduce or deny contact with spurious allegations of hate. Simply fabulous. I can't wait for more. So, if any part of this fictional drama resonates with you, please contact me straight away at www.likenothate.co.uk. And don't forget to download Abigail's statement. Until next time, see you again very soon.